عن أمير المؤمنين أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما العمل بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. At the bottom of the page mentions the adillah, the ayah that I mentioned, and so on, which you can read in your own time. Now, so this is the third point. We're going to move on to the fourth point now.
الصبر على الأذى فيه والدليل قوله تعالى. الرابعة الصبر على الأذى فيه والدليل قوله تعالى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. قال الشافعي رحمه الله تعالى.
Okay, no. So the fourth is patience. Right, so this is the fourth thing you need to have, which is patience. As we mentioned, there's no one that gives da'wah or even tries to act upon that knowledge or even tries to learn knowledge, except it's difficult. Shaitan wants to divert you away from that. People are going to divert you away from that. And some people, a lot of times family, you say to them you got a dars, they see it as something not important, and they say don't go, but then they've got like a function which has no benefit whatsoever, and family will say go there. So family can cause a lot of problems sometimes. Friends can cause a lot of problems sometimes. You want to learn, your friends are saying come let's go out to eat, right? And then you could be trying to learn, and the enemies of Islam, Al-Bid'ah, they come and they cause you issues. Sometimes the uncles in the masjid, they come and cause you issues. People trying to give da'wah and they cause you issues. And there's issues everywhere. Everywhere. If you are trying to do something good, problems are going to come your way. So what's obligatory? To have patience. Sabr is wajib, it's obligatory. A person has to have patience in all scenarios. Okay, what are these scenarios you have to have patience in? The ulama, they say patience is of three types. This summarizes different areas that you need patience in. And the Shaykh he's mentioned it here on page 10. Yeah. So if you look at what the Shaykh says, he says, patience linguistically means forbearance. In Islam, it means forbearance to do certain things and stay away from some. Okay, what are those three things? Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah has divided patience into three categories. Number one, patience upon the obedience of Allah. So it is carried out such as patience to pray. So the first type of patience is upon the obedience of Allah. Meaning, to do an act of obedience, to do a righteous action is difficult. Right? And you want to pray salah, and sometimes you feel lazy. You have to strive and have patience through that hardship and get up and go and pray. And say to yourself, this is pleasing to Allah, this is obligatory, I have to go and pray. The second type of patience is from the disobedience of Allah, to stay away from it. A sin comes, you want to do that sin, you're inclining towards that sin, you have to have patience and say, no, this is displeasing to Allah, I'm going to stay away from this sin. And then the third way, or the third area of as-sabr is upon the decree of Allah. And if somebody passes away, you lose your job. These things which are not in your control, it's not to do with righteous action or to do with disobedience, it's just the decree of Allah, something that's happened. Now you have to have patience. Right? And you say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلْ. This is the decree of Allah, and whatever He will, that's what has happened. So these are the three areas where a person requires to have patience. The first is upon the obedience of Allah, the second is from the disobedience of Allah, and the third is upon the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Shaykh, he says, what dalil qawluhu ta'ala, the dalil, the proof and the evidence for these 4 points is the statement of Allah, and he mentions Surah Al-Asr. Now why does he mention Surah Al-Asr here? At the bottom the Shaykh mentions 3 benefits. He mentions 3 benefits of mentioning Surah Al-Asr. He says, after mentioning the 4 principles, the author quotes the proof from the Quran, Surah Al-Asr. The author always follows the points with the proof. Why? You'll find that in the whole book. He'll mention something and he'll say the proof is this. He'll mention something and he'll say the proof is this. Why does he do this? Number one, to teach a student to be a follower of the proof and not a blind follower of opinions. To show that this religion is taken from where? It's taken from the Quran and Sunnah. So he mentions those adillah from the Quran and Sunnah. Yes, there's nothing wrong when you're studying to study the speech of the scholars that have made it easier for you to understand. They've got all these different ayat and put it together and they say the summary of this is that it means this. Nothing wrong in understanding that. However, أقوال العلماء يستدل لها ولا يستدل بها. The statements of the scholars, you have to prove what they are saying is correct. Not they say something and then you use that as a proof. So they've said something, now you need a proof to prove what they're saying is correct. Where have they taken this from? So this is one reason. Number 2, So one knows the proofs when advising those who oppose disbelief. And when you're speaking to someone, you want to teach them. You can't just say this is the rule, this is that. They're going to say to you as well, what's your proof, what's your evidence? Especially when you're giving da'wah to Ahl Bid'ah, to non-Muslims, right? They claim something, you claim something, right? What's your evidence? You need to know these evidences. And number 3, to train the student how to correctly extract the rulings from the proofs based on established principles. Also to train you, because he mentioned the point, then he mentioned the dalil. The more you do this, the more you're trained to put the connection. Because you can have an ayah, but how did you get from the ayah to that conclusion? That's also a science. It's all science called usul al-fiqh. We're not going to go into the technical terms, but at least you have a general idea of knowing how to. Right? Which we're going to apply to Surah Al-Asr in a second. But before we do, we started about 5 o'clock. So what I'm going to do now is give you guys a small 10-minute break, inshallah.